Hey guys, it's 12 o'clock and it's Friday. You know what that means? That means it's time for Brokerpreneur Not So Secret Society. This is where we come together with brokerpreneurs, podcast listeners, other brokers from across the country, and we talk about growing a real estate brokerage through recruiting, retention, agent productivity, and we just answer any other questions that you guys want to talk about, of course. We have 4 rules that we abide by. Number 1 is collaborative environment, not a competitive environment. Number 2, we're all licensed real estate agents and brokers. It's abide by our code of ethics and stay that way. Number 3, this is being recorded. Number 4, if you're super shy like me and Jeff, who's frozen over there, head on over there to the chat and we'll have a conversation. We'll have a conversation, and I'll make sure there are good comments and questions and make it back to the recording. Matt, we start every meeting talking about motivation, momentum. I'll go first. Everybody here, I think knows the routine. Motivation's your mindset. Momentum's your skill set. How you doing? I am a 5 and a 5. Let's start with Camille.
I'm a 5 and a 5. I have a new hire recruiter coming on board. Woo!
I love it. So the meeting went well. Good.
Super excited to be helping us grow and getting more involved.
Good. I love it. Make sure so we can meet with her, and then make sure on Tuesdays she's in there and Wednesdays like you and I talked about. Okay. That's fantastic. Good stuff.
Absolutely. Kathy, how are you doing today on your birthday?
I'm a 5 and a 5. Camille, that is awesome news.
Thank you.
Recruiting help, that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that Donna is in a place where she can't talk right now, but just know, Donna, we care about your motivation and momentum too, but you don't need to oh, she's a 5 and a 5. I love it. And then iPhone. I just want to make sure that I go ladies first. If that's a lady. iPhone, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. No, I'm not a lady.
What's your name so I know who we're talking to?
My name's J.A.Y. Watkins. I'm in Houston, Texas. Shoshana invited me.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
How you doing, Jay?
Good.
Good.
Awesome. So, Randy, man, you're always styling, man.
I appreciate it. 5 and a 5.
Yeah, he's always looking sharp. Scott, how you doing?
I guess I'm a 5 and a 5.
Yeah, I love hearing that. Ryan?
And I'm in an orange hoodie, and Randy is all decked out with a nice scarf and everything. Geez, I was feeling like a 5 and a 5, but now I'm feeling like a 3 and a 3.
That should not because of me. That should be because of Scott. Scott has a nice tie shirt combo going.
I love it. Thane, how about you?
Probably 5 and a 4.
Awesome. And then Brian, I can see that you're driving, be safe. How you doing with your motivation, momentum?
I'm on my usual 5 and 3. Motivation's good. Still feel like I'm figuring it out,
Gotcha. Well, we're glad that
Process.
you're here.
Yep.
Matt, how about you, man?
I'm a 5 and a 5. We get to talk about one of my favorite topics today. I want to talk about what y'all want to talk about. Okay. Just like always. And I'm not even going to say what my topic is until we hear all the questions that everybody's got. And then if that stalls out, then absolutely, I can't wait to talk about my topic because it's one of my faves. Right. But before we do all of that, so how's everybody doing? What questions you got? What's going on recruiting wise that we can talk about that's for the good of the order?
Nothing. Again, nothing's going on.
They all got stuff going on. 4 million things going on is what they got.
I'll say something. So
Okay.
I just want to say thank you and a shout out to you guys for helping me with getting somebody hired. They helped me create a job description and figure out a salary compensation program that works, that is part hourly and part incentive. And, just really kind of pushed me along to get this done so that we can be more successful and grow, because I am just not getting to all of the things that need to be done. And, the brokerpreneur system is super easy to use, but you got to put a little time into it. And I just haven't had that to put into it. And now I think we'll be able to really take off. So thank you guys.
So there's a balance there, right? So we talked about this yesterday on BOP Live. right? On BOP Live, it was, are you using your dollar per hour? What you're worth dollar per hour? Are you leveraging that as good as you can? We talked about it from an agent perspective, but the same thing is true from a broker perspective, right? And so you're trying to maximize your dollar per hour with some of the things that you're doing, transitioning, you want to get from a sales place to a place that you're managing all the sales, right? But we got to get there first. And so you need some help with certain things. So, we just absolutely love to help out with that. And your person, I forget her name, I apologize.
Amara?
Amara, that's right. So Amara, we're going to get her up to speed. Everything's gonna go smoothly. I'm super excited. Right. So cool. We're glad to help. So who else? Anybody else got anything?
Well, I mentioned this last week and nobody really came up with a real answer. But I've I have the concern about out recruiting the infrastructure that we have. In other words, bringing on more people that we have. See, we give each agent a mentor agent, okay? We can't load the mentor agent down with too many new licensees. The mentor agent is an agent themselves. They've got their own business to take care of. And so, I find I can see a lot of times where companies just recruit without the infrastructure in there to absorb those people and bring them on correctly, and which I'm quite sure contributes a whole, not entirety, but a lot to the amount of fallout that there is in the business in the first 6 months or a year or so. So anyway, my question is what do you do about not out recruiting your infrastructure? Have I explained that well enough?
Yeah, let's dive into it, right? So how many mentors do you have?
Really 2, and they can each handle no more. One of them can handle about 2 apprentices each, new licensees each. The other about 3.
During what time period?
Well, the official time period is 90 days, but in reality, it doesn't stop there. I mean, let's say it's 5 months down the road, and that mentor or that new licensee has a question. They're still going to call that mentor up. They've become friends by that time.
Right.
They've bonded.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here's where we start. We start by a clear description of what it is that's being offered. So I'm assuming that your mentoring program is completely written out, correct?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, good. And so then it has a time limit on it. So you're saying that, hey, they're going to be accessible for this amount of time to you. After that, of course, we still want you to be connected, but remember the majority of what they're doing from you're not going to call it your job description, but from the support they're offering you is going to be over those first 90 days, because we have other people coming in that we want to be able to leverage.
Let me add one thing, if I may.
Of course.
The new agent, the new licensee is paid. The mentor is paid on the 2nd, 4th, and 6th transaction. So that that 4th or 6th transaction can easily be closing can easily be well past the 90 days.
Agreed. Yeah, that so that part doesn't matter, right? So during that first 90 days, their quote unquote mentoring job should be completed. Now they can still be supportive, but their mentoring job should be completed, right? There should be a checklist of all the things they're going to help them out with. So if you're struggling a little bit with capacity, one is description, which it sounds like you have a good description already, but 2, expectations. So what's happening is the door on expectations is being left open, it sounds like, which is impairing the capacity on the mentor. Okay. So the other thing that you have to do is train a couple of other people. If you're hiring that many people that are new agents, train the other people that are coming on, train some other people to help with those people coming on. So and when's the last time you reached out to your agents that are that you know are over the hump of understanding what they're truly supposed to do in a transaction? When's the last time that you reached out to them one by one and said, hey, I know everything's going great with you and you're super busy. We'd love to add some mentors to the office. Would you be interested in us sitting down and going through what you could offer from a mentoring standpoint? Ask, in my opinion, ask everyone and let them tell you no. It's better than going to certain people and having certain people tell you, going to certain people and other people finding out that those people are the ones that you went to. Now, I know what everybody's thinking. Hey, if I ask everybody, right? So Randy's got 600 people in his office. He's like, man, I can't go ask everybody. Well, ask everybody that's over a certain threshold, right? Figure out what you think that mentoring threshold is and ask all of those people. I would suggest that you send an email out to everybody and say, hey, over the next couple of weeks, expect a phone call from me. We've got some new people coming on. They love how we, they love how we do things. We want to make sure they get acclimated to our culture. So mentors are a very important part of what we do. I'm going to be reaching out to everybody that has a threshold over this of their business that might be interested in mentoring. That means you're going to help expose the culture, but at the same exact time, you're going to be able to make a little bit of money helping us make sure that agents get up and running the way that they need to. And then you talk to everybody over that threshold. Now, if you talk to somebody in your office that hits that threshold, but is a jerk and doesn't demonstrate your culture the way that you're supposed to, we feel like sometimes we're stuck with that person because we ask them and we have to say no. At that point, you just got to man up and be the boss. And you have to say, hey, listen, this isn't going to work, right? I've got other people, or, there was a couple of other things that I came across. I want you to be able to focus on your business, and you just got to be able to tell them no if they don't fit. Because you don't want to bring somebody in as a mentor, and this, Scott, that isn't a fit, right? That splinters the culture instead of gluing it together. So number one, job description. Number two, set the expectations with everybody. Number three, reach out to some more people. That's going to expand your capacity with hiring those people. The other option is you can also say, I'm only over a 90-day period. I'm only going to hire this many people that would need a mentor. That actually helps you whenever it comes recruiting time, because now you go to 15 people that you're talking to and you say, hey, listen, I know this is going to sound like a terrible sales pitch, but I just want to be really super crystal clear. I'd love to have you on board. But my mentors, on top of my training, I have mentors, and they do things in a 90-day cycle. I only have a certain amount of spots of people that are approved to be mentors. I'd love for you to be one of those people that get into our program, but I'm going to need you to kind of let me know where you are with what we're going to do together, because it's going to be another 90 days before I'd be able to bring you on. So it gives you that option to have that call to action for that person. Okay. So one is description, two is expectations with everybody. Go back through your list, make sure that you have a bottom line of what a good culture is, and then go back and ask people, if they would be a good fit or not, and then use it in your recruiting from a limited opportunity kind of, call to action. Okay. Does that help?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely does.
Good. Good. Sorry I didn't answer that last week. I apologize. I must have had lawsuit on my head.
Yeah.
Cool. Great question. What else do we got? Anybody else have anything? Thane, how you doing, man? What's up?
I'm doing very good. Been missing for a while. Marcy and I've been swamped. We're a small brokerage, so when you get buyers and sellers, sometimes you have to help them yourself.
Yeah.
And one of my sellers was 5.5 hours away, so that took me. I was out for a day.
Wow, I bet.
Yeah, but we're going good on the recruiting side of things. We're kind of just dead in the water, though. That's how I was actually just messaging with Camille. We probably need an assistant, and we have people that want to help, but they're all agents, and I don't want their production to drop, because that would be a bad thing.
What are the chances of us jumping on a call maybe on Monday and just kind of talking through that? Would that help?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And maybe some of that is we need to let go of a few things.
You think?
Just a few.
Listen, Everybody on here is busy. I promise I get that. We recorded a podcast this morning that talks about exactly this. Okay, it's not going to be coming out for a couple of few weeks, but we talked about this morning, right? You know, it's that pressure on us to perform, because one, as a broker, we make a lot of promises, right? We promise recruits things, we promise our current agent things. If you're helping buyers and sellers, you're making promises to them, and we all want to keep our promises. So you have to make a promise to your growth, because otherwise you put that growth aside and everybody else's promises are getting fulfilled, but the main one that helps you get to the point where you want doesn't get fulfilled. I'm not giving anybody a hard time here. I promise I understand that. Okay, Thane, you brought this up, but I'm not giving you
Oh
a hard
yeah. No, I'm good for a hard time.
Good, right.
We got to stop making promises to people as well.
Yes.
You know, I'm the worst, dude. I'm the worst. I help people with things that I shouldn't be doing. Not only is it distracting me from things I should be doing, it could even be a liability in some cases. So,
Yeah.
Got to stop over promising. And
But that's why you became a broker to start with, is because you like helping people. So it's very hard to say no. But I tell you, so what I ended up doing is I was doing a lot of the same thing. And one thing I learned in here, the difference between, you know, coaching versus mentoring versus all that sort of stuff makes a big difference defining what that is. So I actually have, when I onboard some sheets they fill out, is what kind of relationship they want with me. So I know. But on that stuff where folks were asking me for stuff and I was the one doing work, let's schedule a follow-up. What I do now is I give them homework and I put it on them to follow up with me when they're done. And quite truthfully, I never hear from them again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're not as invested in it as you are, unfortunately. And as much as we want it to be.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, for the people, for you know, what I do, because I kind of fall into the same category. I tend to, you know, I started out as a coach and mentor for the agents of my brokerage before I became a partner and owner. And what I started to do was to create or leverage accountability partners for people that raise their hands and say, hey, I want help. And I say, okay, well, you're at the same space as X realtor or this realtor. You know, would you guys be open to hold each other accountable for the action plans that you have in your business plans? And what I found is that the ones that were serious, they are actually doing a really good job at holding each other accountable, and you started to see some progress out of them. And we were able to actually create an internal mastermind group similar to this, where it's agent focused, and every week they have tasks that they have to do, and we swap accountability partners to make sure that they're constantly building rapport and building relationships with other realtors within the office as well. So assigning accountability partners, I think, will take a lot of the burden off of you to track and maintain, you know, I guess any standards that you want them to abide by in business that you want them to abide by. And it just makes it a lot easier for you to run your business.
Absolutely.
And that bonus on that, and bravo to you guys. I mean, that's a great retention program too.
Absolutely. Yeah. How come, Ryan? How come it retains them?
Because they develop, as he said, developing relationships with the other agents in the office. So the relationship isn't just with the brokers, and agents don't want to leave a place where they have friends.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that's fabulous. The other thing that really helps out with is it's putting them on a little bit of a pedestal for what they know. That's a big deal, right? When they're an accountability partner and they can talk about and help somebody else be accountable on something that maybe they're good at, it gives them that ego boost as well. And an ego boost that maybe they aren't getting if they're not able to have those conversations with people. Keep in mind too, like accountability with like accountability if it's going to be long-term. Okay. Mm-hmm. So don't have one person that's not accountable at all with another person that's really accountable, that really wants that, because right. It's like a golf game, right? If I play golf with any of you and you're good at golf, I will make your golf game worse because I suck at golf. I will drag you down. I will drown you like an anchor on a golf course. Okay. Now, with that being said, if you play with other people that are better, then they help you, right? So it's the same exact thing with accountability. Long term, short term, for a week or 2 weeks, you might be able to do that a little bit different. Okay, for the next 2 weeks, you two do this, and then somebody, somebody works through that. Okay, so that's good stuff. I absolutely love that. Anybody else?
Yeah, Ryan said he threw his clubs out. He said, we'll just go fishing. instead."
That's what I'm talking about. We might get skunked, but it's still a good time. We didn't say we'd go catching. I love it. All right. Anybody else? Thank you, everybody, for not bringing up the lawsuit. I am not going to bring that up. We're going to move on. I promise we'll talk about that. Everybody's probably lawsuited out. Okay, so we'll take a breath from that. All right.
Big time.
All right. So here's what we are going to talk about. If nobody else has anything else, objections versus conditions.
Mm.
When you're recruiting, there's a huge difference between objections and conditions. You have to be able to understand the difference between the two. I'm gonna give you, and this comes directly from, we do a killer recruiting boot camp, and this comes directly from one of the modules out of that recruiting boot camp. I always love it when we get to the chance that we talk about this, right? So here's the definition of objection. An objection is a fear or a worry about the subjective circumstances that impede the intended use of a service or product. I'll go over it again, okay? An objection is a fear or worry about the subjective circumstances that impede the intended use of a service or product. Okay, that's an objection. Let me give you a condition. A condition is a valid barrier to the proper intended use of a service or product. Okay, so let me give you an example. Somebody says, I have 5 transactions going on right now, and I can't leave because the situation in my brokerage is if I leave, I will not get paid on any of those based on my independent contractor agreement. Right? So could they still leave? Yes, they could still leave, but that's really a condition of their circumstances. Okay. And an objection would be, hey, I've got 2 listings coming up and I really want to deal with those listings before I move somewhere else. That's subjective. You could have some kind of conversation with them that could change that. One is a condition, one is an objective. You have to make sure when you're talking to somebody that you truly isolate it, number one, and that you truly figure out whether it is a condition or an objective. So you've got to ask questions about it. A lot of times people will put things across like they're a condition. If this isn't done, I can't do this. And the truth is, when you start to dig into it, it's more of an objection, and they're saying, I really don't want to do this because I've already got to make this big change, and now you're asking me to figure out something else, and I don't want to have to figure out 2 things or 3 things in the middle of a change and shift and whatever. And so all of a sudden it turns from a condition to an objective. So once you've dug into it a little bit, one of the ways that you can really figure out whether it's truly something that you're going to be able to get past or not is by isolating it. Okay. And when I say isolating it, what I mean is asking them, okay, if I could figure out some way of helping us get past that, is there anything else that would stop us from working together? So please go back and listen to this recording or write that down or whatever it is. Notice that I said you joining I didn't say you joining my company. Notice I didn't say you leaving where you're at and coming over here. I said us working together. If you've done a great job building a relationship with them, what you're really selling them and convincing them of is that you're going to work together. What you don't want to do is have a great conversation and a great relationship with them and talk to them and then feel like they can help you. And then all of a sudden you start saying things like, join my company. Because in their head, believe it or not, in their head, it moved from you and I talking and working together to you coming over here and working for something else. Is what you're saying. Is there anything that would stop us from working together? Is there any, if I can help us get past this, is there anything else that would stop us from working together? At that point, you're isolating that objection. You're asking them, hey, if I fix this, are we moving forward? Now, I am really big, if you ask my wife or my kids or anybody that I've ever worked with, I'm really big on an assumptive close, because once I've done this, I just start assuming that you're going to keep your word. So once I've made that isolation, I'm just expecting that you're going to do what you said you were going to do. And then I hold you to it. And if you back off from that, I just simply say, hey, wait a minute. The only reason I'm asking you this is because I'm trying to hold you accountable to what you told me. It's not how I say it, but that's what I mean. And it typically comes across that way. Because if you said that was the only thing, and I figure out a way that is acceptable to get past that, That's the only thing. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
But you have to isolate. If you do not isolate and you fix that for them, and you didn't say is there anything else that would stop us from working together, and you fix that, they can easily say, well, you know, that really was part of the problem, but that wasn't the only thing because this happened since the last time we talked. Now me saying, hey, you're lying, I wouldn't say it like that, but me saying you're lying doesn't come across the same way. You know, whenever I'm sorry, whenever we talked, you said that was the only thing. I didn't realize that other things would keep popping up. So what I really need to get my head wrapped around, I want us to work together. What I need to get my head wrapped around is what really is stopping us from working. Because the last time we talked, you said it was this one thing, and now you said it was something else. I must have missed something. This is completely my fault. What did I miss? And they're like, no, it's not you, it's me. Okay, well, tell me why it's you. What are you really worried about? What are you really concerned about? What are you afraid of? Remember, let me read this back to you, okay? Because I want to say it the same exact way every time. An objection is a fear or worry about the subjective circumstances that impede the intended use of a service or product. So now whenever I ask them that and I've isolated and I've overcome it and all of that, and then they start doing something else, I can start using those words, fear and worry. I can start talking about those specific words because it's an objection at this point. It's not a condition because we isolated it. We said that was the only thing and we got past it. So let's talk about, you know, getting past some of the things, right? You know, one of the big ones is I'm happy where I'm at. I would never move. Okay. All I want to say about that is liar, liar, pants on fire is what I want to say whenever somebody says that. Okay. You don't know what's going to happen. I always would say, I love it that you're happy where you're at because I think that agents that are loyal are a great fit for our culture. And I love it that you appreciate that where you're at right now. That is in my opinion, that is a positive trait that somebody is like that. And I think the more that you can talk about that and say, that's great, because if we ever did work together, I wouldn't have to worry about somebody calling in and recruiting you away from me. You can enjoy that and have fun with that and let them know that they appreciate that. But then I would always say, sometimes things change. Is it okay if we stay connected in case they do? And what are they going to say? It's real estate, accept, decline, or amend. Yes, no, or maybe. So at that point, all I'm doing is saying, I'm going to stay in touch. And we all know things change. We all know that. They're going to come in one day and the manager that was there that they loved announces they're retiring. They're going to come in one day and fees change. They're going to come in one day and whatever. Those are not bad things. Those things happen. All I'm saying is rent the space in their head until they do happen. And then when you hear about it, all you're doing is staying in touch with them. You stayed connected the whole time. The whole reason why we rent space in people's head is because when that trigger happens, they don't have to make a decision. They've already made it. If they like you, if they trust you, if they know you already, and something changes where they're at, they are relieved because they know where they're going already. That's all you're trying to do. You're just trying to stay connected with them that way. That's why there has to be automation. That's why there has to be a ton of value coming their way all the time. That's why it can't just be phone calls to them. If all you're doing is phone calling, hoping you catch them at the exact right time, then all the other times that you called, you sound just like everybody else. So what you're doing instead is you're establishing that relationship, you're establishing that benchmark, and then all you're doing is putting value in their head until it's time for them to make a decision, and then they've already made it. And they don't even realize they've made it. And when they're trying to stop you from allowing them to make that decision, isolate it. Is it an objection? Is it a worry or a fear? Or is it truly something happening that's stopping us from working together? Now, if I can get past that, what would stop us from working together? Does that make sense?
Yep. So let me ask you a question, Matt. If you're in the process of doing that and you're dealing with someone that says, yeah, I'm happy where I'm at, and I love my broker, I love my brokerage, and you're adding value and you're renting space in the head over an extended period of time. at what point in the relationship or in your outreach to them do you actually have a call to action and say, let's revisit the idea of joining my brokerage or coming over? Not in those exact words, but
Right. Yeah. So if an event happens where they're at, absolutely. Right. Absolutely have that conversation. And if an event happens, you can just simply say, hey, look, I know that there's a bunch of other brokers that have probably called you because they heard that Betty Sue was leaving. Please understand, all I'm doing is just throwing my hat in the ring. You and I have talked. I think you would be a good fit with us. If now's the time for us to have a better conversation or bigger conversation about it, I'd love the chance to be able to do that.
right,
Let's say an event doesn't happen, which is, I
Right.
think, what you're asking. Okay.
Right.
Oh, so you're going to talk to people, and if you talk to them on a regular enough basis, think about this with a seller. Okay. So imagine if an agent was asking you the same kind of question. How many times do I have to reach out to the seller and talk to them about, and stay connected before I ask them if they want to sell their house or if they know somebody that wants to sell their house?
Mhm.
If your conversation has a structure to it, okay, and so I'm really big on the Ford structure, okay, does everybody know what the Ford structure is, right? Family, occupation, recreation, dreams. I'm really big on the Ford structure in the conversation. In the Ford conversation, when occupation comes up and you ask them how things are going, very often they're going to tell you the good things that are happening. And the more you support those good things, does anybody know what happens? The more they start talking about the
bad stuff.
bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if I reach out to you and I say, hey, Randy, I just wanted to check in, I saw on Facebook that you were out of town. I didn't mean to be a stalker, but I saw your Facebook out of town and your kids were playing soccer. How did all that go? Oh yeah, it went great. We had a good time and everything. So tell me about the market. Yeah, we're crushing. I got all the listings I can handle right now. Yeah, listings are really good right now. It looks like you're doing really well. And you keep talking to them about it. Some of the conversations are just going to go, hey man, I got to be somewhere else. You're like, fantastic. Other times you're going to be talking to them, and when you say something and when you're supporting what they're doing and they feel that support, they're going to bring up the things that they don't have the support on. Because you're connected with them enough and they feel comfortable enough, they're going to tell you what their pain is because at some point they feel like you can help.
Okay.
The more value you're offering them. Sometimes it's the first conversation. Sometimes it's the third, fourth, or fifth conversation. But in between, the average is, between 7 and 11 times is whenever you get that appointment with somebody, right? And so being able to stay connected with them and send things to them of value, so you're not having to have all those 7 to 11 conversations. You follow me? Is what's gonna happen. We'll talk more about that next week. Okay. So the big thing is, when you're talking to them, when your conversation has a structure, and when you're asking them about business, something is going to come up that you're going to be able to talk more about. Even if their business is going well and they're saying, yeah, I've got so many listings, I've got, 38 things going on and all of this kind of stuff. So Brian, are you at a point where you and I can talk and bring something up here real quick? Because something just happened with Brian. Can we talk? Okay.
Yep.
So somebody told you last week, do not disturb, right? They
Yes.
said, all right. So, and then you did what?
I called them.
Right. And tell me how that went. They hung up on you, right?
So I did have one hung up on me. I got through 3 that talked to me. One hung up on me. And I still got to work on my conversation when I do get to talking to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, one did hang up on me.
Yeah. And then, but you had one that you talked to, right? Whenever you called, he said he was happy where he was at, and put do not call and all that kind of stuff on the text message you sent. Then you talked to him for 20 minutes. What came up in that 20-minute conversation?
We just talked about the market. He has a team, and the pain point that he brought up is the challenge of running a team, trying to get it to pencil out.
Right. Trying to make the math work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so his situation, Brian's situation, is he can help out with that a lot. So what he did is, somebody that said they didn't want to talk to him, said they didn't want text from him. He picks up and calls. The guy says he's happy where he's at, but Brian just talks to him, right? Brian wasn't trying to put him in a headlock and say, you need to come in and meet with me tomorrow. He was just like, well, tell me about whatever. And then the dude starts talking. So many times when you have rapport with someone, so many times when you're just calling up to truly add value to the conversation, as soon as they start to feel comfortable, They are real estate people. They are sales people. They are people that want to talk and want to be connected and all that kind of stuff. They're going to tell you what the problem is. And at that point, you're going to say, you know, that is something that, you know, we actually can kind of help out with that. I'm not trying to be pushy, and I know you love where you're at, but I'd love the chance to sit down and talk. And even if we don't work together, I promise you'll get something out of it that's going to help you with your business. And if they say, no, I'm still good where I'm at, say, great, I'm going to stay connected because I love talking to you. How about if we catch up in a few weeks? How about if we catch up in a month? I'd love to hear how the market is. How many times do they have to have that conversation? Let's be completely honest, before you're giving them more concern than their own broker is. How many times that have to happen?
Not much.
Not much.
3.
What? There you go. Right. So all we're doing at that point is trying to, and so it's a great question, Randy. All we're trying to do at that point is to get to that know, like, and trust and get them to open up a little bit. As soon as they open up just a little bit, man, you know what's going to happen.
Yep.
They're gonna show what the pain is.
Mm-hmm.
And so with Brian's, right, we talked about, okay, so here's what he wants. He let the cat out of the bag with the money. And Brian knows that the financial situation, if that person's in his company, he knows enough about the other company that he's like, you're going to do better here with us. So all he has to do is keep feeding the guy information about how do you get your team better? How do you go to that next level? How do you alleviate that pain that you told me about? And then at some point, the person's going to say, okay, uncle, tell me a little bit more about what you can do. And then as long as you can match your solution with their problem, they're emotionally going to make that decision. And then the logic is just going to follow through, which we all know this, the logic follows the emotion when it comes to the decision, right? That's why we want to have those conversations with them. That's why we want to deliver value. That's why we want to create reciprocity when we talk to people, is because as we do that, it creates that relationship. It creates that rapport with them that I'm not going to say they feel obligated, but from a human perspective, they want to be connected at that level. Good people want to be connected at that level, especially with somebody that they see as a leader, which is how they should see you as the broker. Does that make sense? Randy, does that help?
Yep. No, definitely does help.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Here's another one that I absolutely love. So you'll talk to people and whenever you call and you have a conversation, thanks, Brian. So when you call and you talk to them, they're going to say, I don't like it. So-and-so makes the decision, or the other way around, right? I need to talk to so-and-so because, I think this isn't a good idea, but maybe so-and-so, whatever. So when you talk to somebody, they're pushing that off to the other person. Okay. That is an objection. Okay. Because people that are in a partnership together, people that are working together, if they like what you're doing so much, they will convince the other person that it's the right decision for them. We've all been in that situation before. Yep. Typically, it's teenagers that do that with us, right? So I don't know about y'all, but my daughter will work me over, man. She is, I call her C-note because every time we walk out of the house together, it's $100 for something. So we love, being able to work with the person that we want to work with and bring them over to our side. But if they're saying I have to talk to so-and-so, then just understand that is a worry or a fear about subjective circumstances. Okay. So at that point, of course you want to just like before, whenever you sit with a seller, don't talk to one seller and then let them relay the message to the other one. You're going to say something along the line of, I know that typically whenever people work together, they both have things that they're trying to accomplish in areas that they're responsible for. The best thing for me to do is for all three of us to talk to make sure I answer all of those questions. When can the three of us talk? And at that point, it allows you to get on the phone and have that conversation with all of them. Go back to being a listing agent for just a second. You don't sit at the kitchen table with just one seller. We know that, right? This is the same exact scenario, same thing. So whenever they say that, acknowledge it and then ask them all to sit down. Now, this is not for team leaders bringing their whole team over. Okay, let me talk about this for just a second. You're talking to a team leader, And I don't mean a husband and wife or two partners and then all the team members below them. I mean a team leader and then all the other members on their team. If the team leader says, I need to get with all of my team members and see what they think about this, the chance of it working for you is very, 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 very slim. Does everybody understand that? What they're doing is they're putting the no decision off to a bunch of other people. I can't tell you how many times I was burnt by that. Last few times that happened, I was like, crap. Because I knew what was going to happen then. They're not calling me back. I'm not getting in touch with them. Might as well forget about it. It's over. I lost. So what you have to do early on is ask them, hey, look, I know you've got a team. You're the leader of the team. You're the one that ultimately makes the decision with marketing and with compensation and with all of that, correct? And they'll say yes and say, okay, well, who makes the decision about this type? Who's going to make the decision about this type of transition? Is it going to be you, or is it going to be you and the people on your team? Because I want to make sure that we're having conversations with everybody that's going to be part of this decision. At that point, it's almost like they're insulted by it. Now, what did I do? At that point, I said, are you in charge or not? Nicely, but I said, are you in charge or not? And if they're not, it's okay. Now you get to talk to everybody. But if they are in charge and they do take that responsibility, isolate that, just like we talked about before. Okay, so just to clarify, if I can make sure that this makes sense for us and everything, then we'll be able to work together, correct? I'm going to isolate at that point so they don't get to bring people back in later. It's not like they might not say, well, I really need to go talk to so-and-so. At that point, you're going to say, I completely agree. We need to get their buy-in. So let's you and I come to an understanding that when we sit down after I explain what it is that we offer, that we can go ahead and figure out who's not going to support this decision that's the best decision for your team. At that point, I'm saying who on the team is the problem? Somebody follow that? They said they were the one making the decision. If they said they were the one making the decision and then we're all going to get together with their team, they don't get the opportunity at that point to let their team say no. Either you're the one leading or not, because that's what you said. There is a lot of power in decision-making, holding people to what they said they were going to do. It has to be a very open, easy conversation for them to say yes or no, that I want to be held accountable. Once they say they want to be held accountable and you've isolated that, you need to make sure that you hold them to that, because that is what leaders do. Do not forget or dismiss the fact that you are in charge in this situation. Now, when I say in this situation, you're the one running this show. This is your circus. When they come on board, it might be a little bit different situation. But at that point, you're in charge. Sherry, did you want to add something to that?
No, thanks. Sorry.
Okay, it's all good. So, so that's if they need to check with somebody. Oh, so here's a fun one, right? This is an objection. Remember, worry or fear about subjective circumstances. Your blank is not as good as my blank, right? Your commission split's not as good as my commission split. Your marketing is not as good as my marketing. Your franchise is not as good as my franchise. Your broker is not as good as my broker. Your listing count is not as good as my listing count, whatever that is, right? So you've got a couple of ways that you can approach this. I prefer to approach it a little bit more direct, a little bit more head on. And I would say, so let me understand this. You're worried that where you're at right now is a better circumstance for you than coming to work for me. Is that correct? And they would say, well, yeah, that's what I just said. Didn't I just tell you, right? If they're having fun with it. Yeah, that's what I just said. Okay, so if I can get you past that, then we can work together, correct? Now, all of a sudden, what just happened was they're thinking to themselves, well, wait a minute. I thought I just threw him for a loop and said mine is better than yours. And now he's trying to pin me down and say, if I can prove that what I'm doing is better than what you're doing, then it's time for us to work together. 100% that will put them on their heels. 100%. Because now they think they don't know something. Does everybody follow that?
Mm-hmm.
What I said was, I'm going to ask you to commit if I can prove that it's not the way that you see that it is. People at that point are like, well, no, that's not what I said I'm going to do. I'm happy. Okay, so At this point, I'd love for us to have a better conversation because I want to make sure if there's something that you do that's better than what we do, oh my gosh, I like to change what we do. And I'd love to hear that from you. So I think it's imperative that you and I sit down because I think we can get a lot out of this conversation. So let me make some notes before we sit down. Can we sit down next Tuesday, maybe in the afternoon? Let me make some notes of a couple things that we need to discuss. Okay, so you said my company sucks and your marketing is awesome and your commission split is better and you're the coolest thing on the face of the earth, right? So those are the things we're going to discuss next Tuesday. Is that correct? Is there anything else we need to discuss on that? At that point, all I'm doing is allowing them the opportunity to say all the things that they wanted to say. There's going to be a time when you do this and the people are just simply being obstructive, right? They're just wanting to try to stop and slow things down and push back. I completely get that. Don't we want to enjoy those I want to enjoy those conversations a little bit. When I had those conversations, to me, it was always fun to kind of try to figure out how I can enjoy that conversation, because this was not something that I necessarily loved, because remember in the beginning, I just called. That was all I did. And I didn't have the results from that I wanted to have from that. Even when I got better at what I said on the phone, I still didn't have the results from that I wanted. And so I wanted to shift gears in that a little bit. And the point that I said, man, if somebody's going to be a jerk to me, I'm going to see if I can win this. I started enjoying the calls. I started having fun with them. So I didn't dread it and wasn't worried that I was going to get that phone call, because if somebody stumped me, man, for the next day and a half, I was writing down, what could I have said? You know what I should have said? I should have done this instead. I should have flip-flopped that. I should have whatever. And then as soon as I started saying, okay, was this an objection or was this a condition? It allowed me to look at the conversation, in my opinion, constructively. What I thought to begin with was there was a lot of agents that were jerks. What I figured out for myself, might not be in your market, but what I figured out for myself was my conversations were not strong enough to get my point across. And so I was losing because I was not doing a good enough job in my conversation with them. And so I tried to cover all that up by more conversations. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to become better at when I did talk to somebody. So now I think Brian and I were talking about this the other day. Ben loves sales emails, right? He'll sign up for he'll subscribe for anything. He's got like 8 million, right? Okay, that irks me, right? That bothers me. But sales calls, man, I love to get a sales call from somebody. I don't care who it is. I'll answer your car warranty call, right? I'll answer that. I love talking to the person. I love it when they're on a script. I love it when they're whatever, because I'll talk to them and literally I will try to help them in that conversation because I enjoy it. Well, I got that way from not being afraid to have the conversations, because at some point I knew it wasn't the number of conversations I had, it was the quality of conversations that I had that would start getting me the results I wanted. As soon as I figured out that I could have conversations with a bunch of people and most of them I did not want, man, the pressure was off of me. I was just like, this is enjoyable. And a big part of that came from the difference between objection and condition and being able to isolate that. Does that make sense? I lose anybody on that? Wait, why are you shaking your head?
No one asked you for Bitcoin?
Not yet. Shouldn't be long now. You said it on Zoom, so we'll all be getting those calls today. Yeah, there's timeshare stuff. I get timeshare calls. I get home warranty calls. I get whatever. I'm not on the do not call list. I did not put my number on the do not call list. Okay. I don't.
Wouldn't matter. I'm on it. I get calls. I've gotten 3 calls since we've been on this call.
So I love that. I love having those conversations. It's fun to me. It's enjoyable. So all right. So your whatever is not as good as my whatever, right? So
I got a question.
Yeah.
I mean, you did it for a long time. You probably have a list of the most common objections that you received.
11.
I mean, that's probably something that's probably pretty helpful that we could all take some time and figure out. All right, how would I respond to that? Because I started looking at that with my agents, like with a lot of the things going on with the settlement, and I'm not going to talk about it beyond saying the word settlement. One of the things I talked about with the agents is, you got to up your skills, and you have to be better at having conversations. And so I had asked everyone their interest in doing role play and having regular role play. And surprisingly, a good number of them said, yeah, I think I'd like to do that.
Yeah.
So because they're getting rusty, everybody's gotten lazy. At 2009, 2010, 2011, 12, and I was making 100 calls a day. You're really good at it. And I had a role play partner in Chicago, and 6:30 in the morning, the phone would ring and we'd just go right at it for half an hour back and forth. And so you get very good at that stuff. But when you stop doing it, you get rusty. And if you don't think about what those objections are in advance, someone asks you a off the wall question and you're like, oh, and you're toast at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, so absolutely, there's 11 of them that I came up with, Ryan. Okay, and so we do have a course that we've got inside the hub. It's not complete, so you probably can't see it yet, but I've got a course in there that goes over that, and so it's one of the things that's on the roadmap. I'll get it completely vetted out. I just need to slow down and put all of those in there, but I want to do it to video because I think it would help with that. I think it would help with video. But yeah, I came up with about 11 of them. Okay, and I had them on note cards. And I had I had them written out real small at the top, kind of some version of it. And then right underneath it, I had the response. And what I called the response was a script point. Okay. And the script point was a pivot in the conversation. So if it was an objection, I would appeal to the objection. I would isolate the objection, and then I would script point. I would pivot. Okay. And so what that means is if they say, two people or whatever it is, I would isolate it. Okay, so is there anything else that would stop us from working together? If I can answer that question, would that be helpful to you? Whatever that was. And then very often I would say, that's such a great question. I'd love for us to sit down and do this. Can we grab a cup of coffee? That was my script point flip, because now what that does, that takes me to the part of the script where I'm setting the appointment. You follow me? So as soon as I isolated, as soon as I confirmed it, then I would go to a script point. If they say, no, I'm not willing to meet and everything, say, I completely understand. Can we call next week and I'll go over all of this with you? Or is now a good time for us to have that conversation? Most of the time, I could tell by how they responded to that of whether it would be somebody that I would be able to have a conversation with. Because if they said, call me next week and answer that question that was the dig that I just gave you, and you pivoted on it, and you're ready to answer and you're ready to deal with it, and I don't want to talk about it now, that means it was somebody that I just didn't pay a whole lot of attention to after that. Does that make sense? You follow me on that? So when I said that to them, and I was able to basically adjust the frame so that I'm holding the frame instead of them holding the frame. And as soon as I did that and I pivoted in the conversation, if they wanted to talk now, man, I had them. I just had them. It allowed me to have a better conversation with them. Okay. Oh, so
yeah, Thane had a quick comment.
Yeah. Thane?
Yeah, a couple things came to mind. One is more of a need. One was in response to what Ryan was saying. With what Ryan was saying about, I think that was the role playing. I think what I want to start doing more of, because of this NAR lawsuit, I think that our agents are really going to need some coaching or mentoring and the role playing to have the conversation about buyer agreements with the buyers, and as well as, I guess talking about subsidizing the compensation should the listing agent or the seller not be providing much or any. And then, so that's one conversation that's going to be really hard that we're not used to having.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
At our conference, there was a group from Washington State who they're already having these hard conversations. They've been having them for at least a year. Sorry. And anyway, so I think that me having the role playing with them would greatly help me know how they've been doing this, how they've been having those hard conversations. And maybe there's people on this call that have already had to have those conversations with the buyers. Same with the listing side, that changes too. So what Ryan was saying, that's awesome. And maybe some of us can all role play. But I can't role play right now with my agents because I don't know really how to do it because it's new to me. The second thing was with the objections you were talking about earlier. whatever's good, not good for you, whatever's good for me, whatever. I kind of want to take that to a different way, and maybe you guys can help me. And it's more to do with retention. We've recently had an agent that was talking to another broker or brokerage, and she's, the grass is greener, she's seeing all these things. So I think to take what you were saying with recruits, having that conversation, I need to have that conversation with her to learn, what is she looking for? What does she perceive we don't offer that they do?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
all.
So absolutely. I like that. That's absolutely a Monday conversation. Okay. And so, but let me give you a quick scoop on that. If you're not coaching in some way, shape, or form, and I know that you do, Thane, but if you're not coaching your agents in some way, shape, or form on a regular basis, if you're not interacting with them and somebody else starts interacting with them, it's very hard to get that leverage back, because at that point they look at you as playing catch up. Okay. You need to make sure that there is something in place that on a regular basis you are connected with your agents. Okay. If not, you're playing catch up. Okay. So, the other part that you were saying, that you and Ryan were saying about role playing, absolutely. That's there's a lot of different things that could be role played, right? So one, you can role play, your agents can have conversations, right? They're prospecting role playing. You can have objection handling that's absolutely role playing. You can have coaching conversations that are role playing, kind of, which is what you were talking about, Thane. Absolutely, all of that's fantastic. We got a great community that is excited to be able to help people with that kind of stuff. Absolutely, we should set something up so that that's the case. We've talked about it before, and it just never got very far because we have other things going on with monthly bigs that would impact that, right? But 100% that might be a good idea. What might be a great idea is having a role playing call that is just all of our partners, right? Having one broker lead it each week so that it's not just me rambling on to everybody, and your agents can come on and do the role playing. And we have one topic that we're talking about, or one objection that we're talking about, and you just push it to your agents on a regular basis, and then have those conversations with them. That way you can have it, they get different perspective from different people, but you're also helping out and everything. So maybe that's something that we could look at as well, but we'll talk about that in a little bit different setting. Okay. So all great stuff, Thane. Spot on. I love it.
Very much so.
Yeah. Cool.
Any other great questions or comments? All right, getting into the top of the hour.
I'll just throw one thing out there just with the role play stuff. Like, I had to be honest, like I really haven't made many calls. I've been relying on the text messages and following up that way, which you're getting fewer and fewer people responding. You're getting more stops than anything else. So I know I need to pick up the phone, which I don't necessarily have a problem with, but the problem is I haven't given a lot of clear thought on how I want that conversation to go and how I would want to ask better questions, so that, because the objection is generally there's something you didn't answer as part of your presentation or in part of your questioning with them at the end when you're going to secure an appointment. There's something you left on the table because you didn't ask good enough questions.
Yeah.
And I just haven't put the time in to really consider how those conversations are going to go. And so then I feel very uncomfortable making them as a result.
Right. Yeah. So here's what, so going through your conversation, just if you go back and watch the replay, this is at the very end of the call, just remember that. Several times throughout the conversation, you need to be asking, is there anything that we just talked about that I'm missing or that I didn't answer or that would stop us from working together? Don't ask it just at the end. If you only ask it at the end, it's too late. Okay. So before you're going through a hallway and you're closing doors down the hallway instead of going to the end of the hallway and closing one door. That's a mistake that, and I'm not giving you a hard time, Ryan. Okay. But that is a mistake that a lot of people make when it comes to sales. I'm going to tell you all the stuff that I've been trained to tell you. And at the end, I'm going to try to close. Okay. Instead, along the way, you should be isolating things to get to the yes. So if you tell somebody, there's really 5 things that we need to talk about today, because that covers everything in real estate. There's 7 things we need to talk about today because that covers everything in real estate. As an example, as you finish the first one, you ask for confirmation that it's okay to move forward on that. You ask them, was there anything that we discussed in that didn't make sense to you, or that would stop us from working together? You close on the second one. Hey, I just wanted to follow, just like we kind of said a second ago, right? I don't want to move the conversation forward if there's something that would stop us from working together that we already talked about. If there's something that you didn't understand, is there anything that you didn't understand? And keep closing those doors all the way down that hallway. Then at the end, it's not a matter of, okay, here we go. Let's do this big close. I sure hope this works. At the end, it's kind of just the assumption. At the end, it's just, hey, I know we talked about all the things and there really wasn't any questions. And the 2 questions you did have were about this. It sounds like we'd be a good fit to work together, right? Now I got to think about it. Oh my gosh, what do we got to think about? Because I told you there's 4 things we need to talk about, and you told me there wasn't any questions about any of it. What the hell do we have to think about? Right? Now, you're not going to say that, but you get it, right? You're going to, that's where you go with that conversation. Well, what would you need to think about? Because we kind of, as we went, there was nothing that came up. Is there something that I can answer now that would help us understand that? Because I want to start helping you go to that next level that we talked about just a minute ago with your leads. What's stopping us from getting your leads on track the way we discussed?
Let me add one thing. I know we're past time, and so I'm not going to take long at all. But most of what we talk about each Friday has to do is kind of assuming that we're wanting the people. And I'm not saying I'm right on this, but well, in a way I am, I guess, because I want people that I think have potential in the business so I do ask them an awful lot of questions, like a real job interview, rather than just, I have them, I draw them out, but I sort of take the attitude that I don't want them unless they can prove to me that I should want them, rather than the other way around where I want everybody. And we mostly in here, I think, are coming from the standpoint that, that we're wanting everybody.
No.
So, no, I'm not saying that everybody feels that way. I'm just saying that most of the conversation is like, what do we do to close them and all that? We don't always know that we want to close them throughout close all those doors. They may be people we don't want.
100%. Absolutely there is. And here's what I would suggest that you're looking for in a recruiting appointment. People that fit your culture. That's what you're looking for. People that fit your culture are people that are going to, one, get in there and get productive and leverage the things that they need to leverage. They're going to start, we want them to adopt to your culture and adopt to your tools, not adapt. There's a big difference between the 2 of those. Okay.
Well,
so yeah. My assumption is on all of this is if you're talking to somebody that isn't a good fit, every one of you is just going to say, hey, this ain't going to work. See ya.
Well, I think if we keep in mind that right at 50% of the people in the business, I guess it was last year, did anywhere from 0 to 1 transaction. If you keep that in mind, you kind of know going in the thought, and this is not, I'm not talking about experienced agents now, because you can look at MLS and get their track record and all. I'm talking about new licensees now. With those odds, or with that knowledge of the anywhere from 0 to 1 closed transaction last year, I think I don't think it's wrong thinking to make them prove to me that I want them, rather than me automatically thinking I want them as soon as I shake their hand when they come in for their interview. In fact, I even give them there's a certain it's called the potential performance profile that I have them take.
Right.
I'd rather them prove to me that they belong here than me just chasing after them, assuming that,
Yeah, I completely agree. They've got to be a fit, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, they've got to be a fit. If they're not a fit, they're not a fit. Here's what I would encourage you to do though. This is for everybody. This is why I said it's about the culture. Okay. I've hired people that did not do well in the beginning. I've hired people that did not, that absolutely positively struggled. Okay. I hired somebody that in the first company that I owned, you know, I had a call night, tricked everybody into showing up for a call night. Everybody comes in, you know, they're making their calls and everything. She's hiding from me. Okay. So this is the 90s. Okay. So she's hiding from me. She's trying to sneak out. Okay. So I catch her and I'm like, you know, what's going on here, right? And she swore up and down she didn't want to keep doing the job she was doing and all that kind of stuff. And I kept, you know, everybody else leaves and she walks through the door and she's crying because she's like, oh, I can't do this. I can't just pick up the phone and call people. I can't just whatever. And I'm like, you don't have to. This is me trying to help you understand that this is a way to prospect if you want to prospect this way. And so we talked the next day or 2 days later. Oh, she finally found a way. Her best year with me, she sucked for almost a year until we figured it out. And she had other jobs and she was distracted and she was all of that. Her best year was 143 transactions. Okay. Now a lot of those were lots and she sold them to builders and all that kind of stuff. She did 143 transactions by herself. Okay. Now there was a lot of lots. Like I said, she'd sell 20 or 30 lots to a developer and then she'd get a couple of the listings and all that kind of stuff. Jeff, this was Lynn in the Brunswick office. And so she just, you know, I missed it, right? I was screwing up. I was thinking that her being a fit was production and her prospecting the way that I thought she needed to prospect. The truth ended up being she was a great fit for my office for a very long time until I left. She was a great fit for my office. That's the kind of person that retention is easier. The people that you hire just to fill the number quota, the people that you hire just just because you think they're going to be productive, man, those are the ones you're chasing all the time, trying to track them down, figure out where they're at. They're the ones that come in the middle of the day saying, oh, I just had lunch with so-and-so and they said something's awesome right after your sales meetings and everybody's in the office. That's that kind of person, right? So finding the people that fit, that are a cultural fit, and then showing them how to be productive, man, you just can't go wrong with that. So great point, Scott.
Well, the thing in that survey was really not just for new licensees. That was agents. I think it was like 17 states that they did a survey on it. This, I mean, maybe some were new agents, but this was just, you know, many were not. They only did the one deal a year.
Yeah, and I think that's correct. Yeah, I think that's correct. It is almost 50% of them that have less than one transaction. Yeah, I think that's a NAR stat. So cool.
Absolutely. Well, guys, if there's nothing else, you being here makes this so amazing. I hope you have an amazing weekend. And Matt, we do this and everything else that we do. Oh, let me just mention next time, just to make Randy feel a little bit like, oh man, I'm underdressed. I'm gonna wear a tuxedo t-shirt. We do this and everything else we do for one reason alone. Tell them why that is.
Because we just want to be part of your win.
See you guys.
See you guys.
Have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend.